Everyone, it's Jai452 back again inside the land of cosplay, rummaging around seeing what we can find on Inside Cosplay. Joining me this week is my very special guest, Skylord Cosplays. Hi Skylord.
Hello there.
How are you today?
Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing awesome. It's very windy here in the UK, but I'm still awesome.
Yeah.
And I can see the sun is splitting the clouds where you are, so you're very, very lucky.
Yeah.
So we're just going to jump right in there, and I'm going to ask you, when did you first start cosplaying?
Officially I started cosplaying back in 2014, but I guess in reality I've always been kind of a cosplayer, because even as a little kid I would watch movies and you're like, oh, I want that outfit, it's so cool, and I could do it like this, and but I didn't officially know what cosplay was until Comic-Con came to Utah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when it kind of opened my eyes to what cosplay was, because even before that I had started building and creating characters based on movies and such, because I worked in haunted houses and stuff.
Awesome. Do you remember what your first cosplay was? Now, this doesn't necessarily need to be at a Comic-Con, but like your first own made costume.
My first made costume I did was either the Heath Ledger Joker, and that was actually the first one I wore to a Comic-Con, or Freddy Krueger, because that one I mainly play in a haunted house. I've played him for 8 years now.
It's funny you should mention that, actually, because I was in a store today that was selling the Freddy Krueger gloves, and has been selling them for quite some time. So who or what inspired you to get into cosplay?
I don't necessarily think it was a who, it was just always my love of dressing up. I do historical reenacting. I've done that since I was 4 years old, and so I've always just loved dressing up and just having fun. And then that just kind of transitioned into like movies, video game, dressing up as well. Yeah.
Is there any particular, like you mentioned movies and video games, and I'm guessing television programs is included in that as well. Was there any one particular one that inspired you more so than any of the others?
I remember as a kid watching the original Stargate and always wanting one of the Anubis guards outfits, and
I can understand that.
That'd be a really cool one. I grew up watching the Shadow, the 1994 movie with Alec Baldwin, and wanting the Shadow outfit. The same with the movie The Phantom, based on the comic book radio television series. There's just so many that I just loved growing up. And then one question I'm going to ask you in relation to childhood, because I can remember doing this as a kid myself, watching the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Yep.
And desperately wanting to do a costume like that at Halloween. I'm assuming you were the same as a child, watching those kind of television programs and going, I want to make a costume like that, or I want a costume like that.
Yeah.
I want to be the next Power Ranger. Okay, awesome. I can go back even further than that, because, Jai's old, apparently. I can go back to when the Thundercats was on TV.
Thundercats, yeah.
The original Thundercats.
Mm-hmm.
And I, to this day, actually still have a Wily Kit toy somewhere. So I might be drawing on that for inspiration at some point. Who knows? So yeah, like I can understand it. You mentioned historical reenactments. How did you get involved with them?
That I got involved when I was 4 years old, like I said, because my stepdad married my mom when I was 4, and he's been doing it since the 1970s. And so he naturally got the whole family involved, and I just kept going with it. And now I professionally make hand sew the clothes. I hardly ever use a machine unless it's either a time constraint or it's historically accurate to like the American Civil War, the 1850s, 60s. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's kind of my little side business, is I make period museum quality replicas of all these historic clothing.
Awesome. Obviously it's difficult to remember all the way back to 4 years old, but what time period are we talking here? Like, are we talking a whole stretch of various time periods, or?
I can reenact from the 1750s to the 1860s, and I do American history. So it would be the French and Indian War for American viewers, or for European, the 7 Years' War, all the way to the American Civil War, and all the major conflicts in between. So you got the American Revolution, the War of 1812 for the Americans, or the Napoleonic for Europe. I can do the Mexican-American War, the Texas Revolution, and then the American Civil War.
Awesome. Because when you said historical reenactment, the first thing that sprang to mind for me was the first Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm. I've done that as well.
Like that kind of time period, it just kind of like,
mm-hmm.
as in, there you go, historical reenactment. So that's really awesome, and it's really cool that your stepdad got you guys so heavily involved in that. Do you think that that's been one of the driving forces for you getting into cosplay? That, like, hey, you know, I already have the experience from making historically accurate costumes, so it's not going to be that difficult to make accurate.
Yeah, it definitely helped. Because I learned how to make those outfits first before I started making my cosplays, and that really helped because I was able to read a pattern and either manipulate it to what I needed it to do, or just completely change the pattern or kind of create my own, essentially. But it definitely did. It was a driving force, because now that I think about it, historical reenactment is just historical cosplay.
Awesome. We will be right back, guys. And we're back. So my next question to you is, what has been the most challenging cosplay or costume, not necessarily going to a Comic-Con, like it could be a historical costume as well, that you have done to date?
Probably my most challenging was my first, like, armor build, and that one I did with the Shredder from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I did the original version from the first movie back in the 1980s, and that one was hard because I'd never worked with some of the... I used Sintra, which is kind of the cheaper version of Warbler. It's kind of a poster item that you can heat up and it can form to whatever you want. Yeah. And it was just my first time using it, and so I was just trying to figure out all the different techniques on how to shape it and everything else like that. It was a little bit of a challenge on that one.
Awesome. Now I'm going to ask you the same question again, but this time, instead of the creating of a costume, let's go with the acting side. Like, to date, what has been the most... Yeah. So, to elaborate that for the viewers, there is sometimes a little bit of acting involved in cosplay, whether that be how a character moves, speaks, how they would pose, or just generally how they would interact with the general public, as well as mannerisms, which is covered really by movement. But to date, what has been the most challenging cosplay or character that you have done so far?
That would be between the Joker or Freddy Krueger, because both of those characters I took an entire year studying so I can get the voice, the mannerisms, everything down, Freddy Krueger just kind of came along naturally as a progression over the last, like I said, 8 years that I portrayed him in a haunted house. The Joker was probably the most mentally challenging because it is the Joker and it's that Heath Ledger version. And so I actually did get a little bit into depression. I gained a lot of weight, and it's not one I typically do because of that past experience with it, but I'll do it every once in a while. It's been a couple of years since I've put that makeup on, but they're both pretty fun characters, and they're just so deep and just so challenging of a character to really try and portray correctly.
It's interesting that you mentioned Freddy Krueger being one of the more challenging ones, because I remember the first Comic-Con I went to, Robert Englund was there, and doing the kind of meet and greets for the fans, and I didn't know that you had to like pay to go and pay to get his autograph and such like. So I knew he was there, and I was just like, well, okay, you need to pay. I'm not willing to shell out as much money as they're asking for, because I might see some stuff that I want to buy. But he was doing I think he was doing a question and answer session with the audience. So I said to myself, I might go to that, which sadly I didn't end up going to. But funny story, when I was kind of walking up the ramp to go and sit down in a chair, on the opposite side from where he was doing the question and answer session, I hear this voice coming over the tannoy saying, please welcome to the stage, and we just got raw. And then this massive scream erupted throughout the stadium, and I'm like looking around, like I jumped like 1,000 miles, and I'm looking around going, did somebody just get stabbed? You know? And then I got England at the end, and I was like, oh, okay, right, now I know why. So yes, apparently Robert Englund can make people jump regardless of where he is in the world.
Yeah, I was really lucky he came to the Salt Lake Comic Con last year, so I was able to meet him, get his autograph, and get a picture with him. And it was fun because we did a group picture with him. So I went as Freddy Krueger, a friend went as Leatherface, another friend went as Michael Myers, another friend went as Jason Voorhees, and we all surrounded him, and he's all like, It was really kind of a funny photo.
Oh, there was only one slasher left out of that one. Chucky.
Yeah, we didn't have Chucky, we didn't have a Hellraiser, we didn't have a Leprechaun, but yeah, can't get them all.
Which is interesting because Chucky has just recently had his new movie come out. Hopefully success, or at the point in time when this was being recorded on the 16th of October, he's just recently had a new movie out. Okay, so you've spoken about why Joker was kind of challenging to get into that kind of role due to it being the Heath Ledger Joker, and that's a very interesting Joker to say the least. Do you think doing a more upbeat version of that character would have been easier when you look back on it?
It probably would have. Just because the Heath Ledger version is just so dark, it probably just took me to that place automatically because that's just how the character is. So I'm pretty sure if I would have done like the Mark Hamill version, I probably wouldn't have had as many problems. But the main reason I did the Heath Ledger one was at the time everyone's like, oh, you look a lot like Heath Ledger. So I'm like, okay, I'll kind of go with that. But now everyone's like, you look like Chris Pratt. So I'm going with that now.
Let's talk about getting into the character of Freddy Krueger, because obviously that's something that you took a good amount of time to get into. You went through, obviously, all the different movies. Did you look at the remake, or was that one that you kind of said, right, I'm going to be specifically focusing on how Robert Englund did it over... I can't remember his name.
the remake hadn't come out yet, so I mainly focused on the Robert Englund version. I did watch the remake, of course, because it's Freddy Krueger. And there were some aspects of it I liked, but other aspects I didn't like as much. But Robert, I liked his because as the movie progressed, he just had more and more fun as the character, and he just became more kind of the satirical jokester than the just dark, creepy slasher from the original first movie. I figure about around the third movie is when he kind of transitioned from dark slasher to just the Night Stalker.
I think that's the same for a lot of like long-lasting characters, because a lot of people say the same thing about Chucky. Like he's a deranged slasher in the first one. Second one, he starts to get a little bit not too serious about himself in the third one, and then the fourth one it's full-blown comedy with the occasional slashing moment. And I won't say anything about the seed of Chucky, because you know a lot of people just think that's a comedy movie with a little bit of gore. But yeah, I mean, I can see that. Is there any particular aspect of Robert Englund's character that you used to get into the character? Like, is there any particular line that just helps you snap into that Freddy Krueger performance?
At this point, I can literally bounce between myself and the character of Freddy Krueger, just no problem, just like a simple snap. But I'm trying to think if there would be any lines. Well, there's always the "Welcome to my world," but
or the one that he says, I think it's to Kirsty when he like bashes her head into the TV.
Oh yeah, "Welcome to prime time, bitch."
Yay! It's interesting that people do that, like the little kind of lines of dialogue, and that's just them and the character. Okay, dokes. So my next question for you, in your opinion, what is the most difficult character or thing to cosplay as, both from the making of the costume and the acting side of things? So let's start with the making of the costume. What do you personally consider something very challenging?
Like I'd said earlier, armor making was a whole new aspect that I had never done before, so the Shredder was probably one of the more difficult and time-consuming costumes I've ever had to make, and there's not that much armor on him, but I really tried to go in as much detail as I could to try and match the movie quality. Trying to think. And then again, that same character, I didn't quite finish it. I didn't get the full crest finished, so I kind of was walking around the con feeling almost half dressed because I had the helmet, but just without the crest.
Yeah. Is there any particular computer game characters that you would maybe not do, or say, right, okay, I'm going to take my time to do this one. It's not something I'm going to have finished halfway through the year. I might need to take a year to do it.
Yeah, the one that I'm planning on making is I really want to do the Connor from Assassin's Creed 3. And that one, I'm blending the historical reenacting that I do with cosplay, so that one I'm actually going to be like completely hand sewing. I'm not going to be using machine very much on that one, because I want to try and make it as 18th century as I can. And because I see a lot of Assassin's Creed cosplayers, but I don't see a lot of good Assassin's Creed cosplayers. I just see a lot of guys or girls go to like Hot Topic or any other store and just buy the cheap zip-up jacket. And I like Connor because his outfit is so simple, but the more I looked into it, there's a lot of detail, a lot of different little lines and everything in that.
That I'm learning a lot of recently.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the acting side. Which do you think, in terms of character or creature, because let's face it, we don't just do characters, we can do creatures as well. Do you feel is the most difficult to either portray or do from that acting side? What is something that you would definitely take a year to just kind of figure that one out?
Are you talking about like upcoming?
Well, not necessarily upcoming, just in general, you know, like what is a character or cosplay creature that you would just go, right, I'm not, at this particular moment in time, I'm not quite sure how to portray this character, but if I took the time, I'll possibly figure it out.
Yeah. For me, I'm still trying to get Star-Lord down. Like, his voice is a lot different than mine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can match Chris Pratt when he goes higher, but his normal talking voice, it's hard for me to match that one. I'm trying to think of... Well, I haven't gotten much into like anime or any of those other series like that. So those ones would be the only hard ones I'd probably have a hard time getting into. And just kind of, so those would be the ones I would probably have to take a while to try and study and get to know, just because it's not something I normally do. One I thought about doing would be like the new Pennywise, because I finally saw that this past week, and that was a fun one.
I've yet to sit and watch that and the original, but
I haven't seen.
Sorry?
Oh, I was gonna say, I haven't seen the original either.
Okay.
But
given that I have, I think it's agoraphobia.
oh, okay.
It's very, very difficult for me to sit and watch anything with clowns in it. I did, like, I was brave, I think less than maybe 2-3 weeks ago, and I tried to sit and watch the new one. I got right up to the point where Bill Skarsgård pops up in the drainage pipe, and I'm like, nope, done.
Yeah. There actually wasn't too much gore in the new one.
I've heard that, but if from what I was hearing in reviews, because I've been able to watch reviews on it, that scene where Georgie actually meets Pennywise is a lot more graphic in the new one than it is in the the Tim Curry miniseries. Because the Tim Curry miniseries, we don't see what happens to Georgie, we're left to assume. Whereas in the new one, we see it. Yeah. And I didn't even get as far as that. So I'm like, no. But I will say this. I mean, I've seen the outfit for Bill Skarsgård, and I've seen various clips of him doing Pennywise, and there is just something really intriguing about that particular costume, because I'm sitting there like knowing that it's a clown, so I'm kind of like, where's the breathing bag as I'm looking at it, but at the same time I'm kind of trying to look at the costume more and go, wow, this really does look like a 1600s whatever type of clown. You know, it looks like a Victorian-esque clown, and I'd really love to study how they've made the actual costume. And I dare say that that's the same for a lot of cosplayers. We'll probably be looking at things that terrify the living hell out of us and going, I wonder how I could make that. Strange breed of people. Okay, so I'm going to ask you the same kind of question again, but instead of relating it to yourself, let's relate it to other people. So let's say, for instance, I come to you and say, I'm thinking about doing a creature cosplay.
Mm-hmm.
And I say to you specifically, I want to do this big, massive bat type gargoyle creature that has extending wings and retracting wings. And let's say that you know that my skill level is close to beginner. Would that be something that you would advise against me doing? Or would you say, right, here's what you need to study?
That one I would definitely, I would help you walk through. I'm not going to deter anyone from doing what they want, because that's the point of cosplay. You do you. Mm-hmm. But I would try and help them slowly work it out, like plan it out, draw it out. That's always the first thing I try and do, is I draw out what I'm going to make, so I can look at every little aspect and get the detail of what I want, and then slowly start kind of piecing it together. You want to, think about, if you're going to have the extending wings, you got to make sure you're in a good clearance, so you're not going to smack anyone in the face or hurt anyone. So, and that's actually what I did with Freddy Krueger, because he has the claws. I actually went to a gym and I would practice with a punching bag to see how my hand would work, so I could like throw my claw at people and make sure that nobody got hurt, but still scare them because the claws are coming right at them. The same thing I would practice with the wings. And you would want to practice like poses, because of course people are going to ask you for your picture. So you're not just going to stand there. You want to be all kind of creepy with the wings and everything. So there's so many different little aspects to think about, not just the building process, but while you're at the con, what are you going to
do? In regards to the acting side of that, is there anything that you would advise people do when it comes to the acting?
Acting it's really just, it's understanding the background of the character, because people are going to be asking questions, and also either building your own side of that story and keeping up with it, or finding a character that's already established and staying with that character, like I do with Freddy Krueger or the Joker.
That's good. Okay, so let's move on to Comic-Cons. Now, there are two types of Comic-Cons that we can go to throughout the year. The big once-a-year ones. So ones like San Diego Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con, Florida Comic-Con, and various other locations in America Comic-Con. We'll just leave it at that. I'm not naming any other locations, because no doubt we'll screw it up. There's various once-a-year ones, and then there are your other ones that are your smaller, more local ones that happen, let's say, every 2 to 3 months or 2 to 3 weeks, depending on where you are in the world.
Yeah.
Out of those two, which do you prefer going to more? Do you prefer the big once-a-year ones, the smaller, more local ones, or do you like a blend of the two?
I've done a blend of the two, but I like the big ones. They're more fun. There's more people. There's more people to interact with. There's the celebrities. There's the artists. There's the authors that come through. To me, that's just it. It makes it a little bit more worth it. The smaller ones are nice and more intimate, that you can have fun with your friends while you're there. But the bigger ones, they have more opportunities. A lot of the bigger ones are kind of money grab, but you just got to weigh it out. And
I think with the bigger ones, you kind of have to expect that they're going to be a little bit more, we want your money than anything, because they have the likes of celebrities coming in, and the celebrities on believe it or not, some of them need to be paid.
Yeah.
I say some of them need to be paid, not always the case. So I'm not shooting any celebrities in the foot there.
Yeah.
Because I've known some celebrities to be really, really nice at cons, and
And some are just.
Pardon?
Yeah, there's some that are great. They're nice. They have great interactions, and then there's some of the celebrities that are like, all right, bye, bye.
I've actually been very fortunate to go to a Comic-Con event that Sean Astin was at, and funny interaction that happened between me and him. So I'm doing a gender bent Poison Ivy at this particular con. Now, it's the middle of August in the UK, so it's not one of the warmest months of the year. And the costume I had for Poison Ivy had various rips in the material that I was wearing. So I was walking around that con like utterly freezing. So yes, I was going, like, my body temperature was like just literally going from I'm seemingly hot one moment to I'm absolutely freezing cold, nobody even look at me type of cold. So it's the end of the day, near enough, and I said to my cousin, right, okay, I'm going to go to where the celebrities are. I want to see if I can catch Sean Astin just to give him the iGame business card and tell him about the MERP series that we do on the website. I didn't want an autograph, you know, I wasn't caring. I was just like, I want to give him this card and go home. So I get to where he was, and I get the business card out. I head over to the desk where he is, and he's like signing autographs, obviously, for the next day. And one of the personnel people stops me and says, oh, I'm sorry, you'll need to come back tomorrow. Sean's done for the day. And I said, look, I understand he's done for the day. I've been here since 9 a.m. I've been up since 7 a.m. I am extremely tired. I just want to go home. I just want to give him this business card. I don't want an autograph. I want nothing from the guy. He's like, no, you'll need to come back tomorrow. And I'm like, look, I'm only here for the one day. I just want to give him this business card. During this commotion, obviously, Sean hears it, and he's like, motions me to come over. So I just kind of like swan past this guy, the one that stopped me, and I was like, yeah, right, yep. So I walk up to Sean and I say, hi there, Mr. Astin, or Austin even. I really don't want to bother you. I just want to give you this card, tell you about a little MERP series that we're doing, which is Lord of the Rings roleplay via tabletop, and hope you've had a wonderful day. I know you're probably tired, hungry, and want to speak to your family. And he's like signing away, and he just barely looks at me and says, so what's your story then? Now, I'm still in cosplay at this point. So I look down at myself like this and then look back at him and say, well, I'm what happens when Poison Ivy has a one-night stand. He burst out laughing. And I was like, yeah, well, now that I've made your laugh and possibly made your day that little bit better, here's the business card. I'd give him the business card, tell him about it. And I said, I know it maybe doesn't mean that much to you, but it means a lot to the people that I work with, that I've had the opportunity to speak with you today and tell you about the series. As I'm saying this, he pulls over a picture of himself as Samwise, signs it, and he's like, here you go. And I'm fumbling about, like, trying to get my wallet to pay him, and he's like, no, it's alright, just take the autograph.
Yeah.
So I got his autograph for nothing. Jammy me. So yeah, you do get celebrities that often do that, as well as the artists in the artist village, we normally call it. I don't know if you guys call it the same thing. Generally, it's just the room where the artists are thrown into, and they're like, don't move. You know,
Yeah.
if you're a comic book artist, you get thrown into a separate room from the celebrities and told, don't move. People might come and see you. Oddly enough, the first Comic Con I went to, I was very fortunate to meet Jamal Ingle, who is an artist who does Supergirl. So,
Okay.
pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, I think that's what's great about the bigger ones. Obviously, it is a little bit more money grubbing, but celebrities need to be paid for their time and effort, and some of them sometimes say, no, we won't take money.
Mm-hmm.
Which is cool as well. So you've kind of mentioned that you like a blend of the two, that little bit more. Obviously, the smaller cons, you do get more time to spend with people. Is that something that you like the opportunity to do? Do you like to speak with your fan base and say, hey, this is how I made this particular cosplay, this is what you would do if you came into this kind of issue?
I've never actually. This last Comic-Con that I set up with at Salt Lake Comic-Con with Shalane was the first time I've ever had a booth.
Mm-hmm.
I normally I walk around and I interact with the people on the floor, so I don't. It is fun to run into other people who cosplay the characters that I cosplay or am planning on it, and so I can ask them, "How did you do this? Did you do that?" Or, like with me as Star-Lord, I'll go up and say, "Hey, where'd you get this jacket? I really like it," and I'll tell them about mine. And it's just that interaction of exchange of ideas and information and product of where they got what they did and how they did what they did, more than setting up a booth. Maybe in the future I might set up a booth and actually try and sell prints and help people, but I don't like being stuck in one place when I'm at a con. I like to walk around and interact as I'm walking around, because there's so much that you miss at cons that happens away from booths. And so it's hard to break away from a booth to go and do some of that stuff. So that's just what I like doing.
So while we're talking about Comic-Con events and such likes and different cosplay events, I'd like to ask you, what is the one thing that when you go to one of these events that you're most excited for, and the one thing that you either used to or still kind of do on some level find the most nerve-wracking? So let's start with the one thing that you're most excited for.
Most excited is, most of the time, cons are some of the only times I see some of my friends. And so it's always that, hey, who am I going to run into? What new friends am I going to make? What old friends am I going to run into? And all the meetups that you can do, like the MCU, the Marvel meetups, all those different just group gatherings. That's mainly what I like going to con for. It's just the atmosphere and of having fun. Probably the thing that I get most nervous about is when I'm debuting a new cosplay. It's always the fear of, are people going to notice it? Are people going to know who the character is? Are people going to appreciate it? Is it going to bring like some nostalgia to them? Because that's what I really like doing. That's the one. The nostalgia one for me is Zorro. That's one of my favorite cosplays, actually. But I don't wear it very often because a third of the time people keep calling me Wesley from Princess Bride, and it's like, really?
I know that pain, because I remember doing Edward Elric from Full Metal Alchemist.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knew who I was when I did that. There was like one person out of 300 people who knew, and I was like, failure. But I was happy that one person knew who I was, and I was like, yes, can I like keep you around with me the entire time that I'm here? But yeah, that I think that is a common fear among cosplayers when debuting. When debuting a new cosplay, it's, will people know who I am? do I have the right stuff so that they do know, you know. Which is, like I say, it's a common fear, and we'll get over it together. So when you have been at these particular events, have you taken part in the cosplay competition?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If
Sorry.
If so, did you win anything in this competition? And if you did, what was running through your head when they called up you, or possibly the group that you were a part of?
I've entered in the past like 4 cosplay contests at Salt Lake Comic Con or their spring event called Fan X.
Mm-hmm.
And the only time I won, I got 3rd for my Captain Hook, which all it was my 1750s British officer's uniform that I already had. It was completely hand sewn. All I did was I threw on a wig and painted up a hook. I just got a cheap plastic hook from a Halloween store, and I just went with it, and it really kind of surprised the heck out of me that I got 3rd. They actually bumped me up from, like, because it was only like my 3rd time entering into a cosplay contest, and so I'm like, okay, I'm going to go for like the beginner level entry because I haven't done very much, but they bumped me up to intermediate, and I got 3rd place in that. But it was a lot of fun. The first one I ever did was with my Zorro cosplay. It was my first time. I had no idea what I was doing. And it was my first official cosplay build. And I just took it on a whim to enter into the cosplay contest. And I got to the stage portion. And I didn't know that when you're on the stage, you're supposed to like perform as your character. So I just ran out. I just kind of stood there, I kind of bowed, and then I just kind of ran off. Because I just had no idea what to do as the character.
That was the same for me when I did Poison Ivy. Like, Harley, I did my first year, I did the posing, and that was it. I didn't say anything. Ivy, I decided to do that little skit that she does when she steals the necklace in Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
Worst movie of all time, apparently, though. I think Uma Thurman did okay in that role. I mean, there wasn't much to the role other than a whole load of costume changes, but she did good.
Yeah.
She wore the costumes well.
Yeah. For me, it's nostalgia watching that, so it's just kind of one of those guilty pleasure movies for me. Just watching it as a kid, I like Batman, so...
I own that movie, but then I'm a Batman fanatic, so... Yeah. So yeah, I remember speaking to people beforehand, and they said, okay, just when you go up to do the judges, you know, the usual thing, like do your skit and then do your posing and then walk off. The adrenaline just started pumping for me as Ivy, and I'm like, I need to get up here because I'm cold and I really need to start moving. So I go up, I do the skit, and I put the microphone down, and then I walk off. And then as I'm walking up to where my friend was sitting, I'm thinking, I forgot to do something there, didn't I? You know, and it didn't dawn on me until I got home that night that I didn't pause for the judges. So you got on Poison Ivy that come in, did a line, and then left. I guess the judges were kind of happy with that, you know. So yeah, that's an interesting one. Have you ever been asked to judge at a cosplay event?
I haven't.
Is that something that you would like to do in the future?
Probably in the future, yeah. Give me a little while to kind of more build up my own credibility to say. But I think in the future, yeah, it would be fun to be a cosplay judge, because I like going to the cosplay contest to see what people are building and to see what level intricity, how intricate there we go, their cosplays can be, like all the little details, because that's what I like, is just seeing the creative mind that people come up with. And I follow a lot of cosplayers on Instagram to see their cosplays, because a lot of the professional cosplayers, it's just like, how did you do that? That's freaking amazing. So probably in the future, yeah.
It's funny that you should say that, because like every cosplayer that I've spoken to, both on camera and off camera, have always said when they're at cons, obviously they're doing the kind of I haven't seen you in forever kind of thing that most people do, but when it's with somebody that they don't necessarily know, they're looking at their costume going, alright, this is how you can do that. I've seen how you've done that, but I'm not quite sure how you've done this aspect. So I'm going to ask you about this one particular aspect that you've done. And admittedly, I didn't proactively start doing that myself, but my most recent event that I was at, I was looking at certain people's costumes and I'm going, alright, so this is how they did this. I can do that aspect, but I'm not sure about this bit yet. You know, so I'm becoming more like the eye, the sizing up eye is always on kind of thing. Like I'm breaking down costumes as I move, which is an interesting transition, believe me. So in your opinion, what are the best and worst things that a new cosplayer can do when they're getting ready to go to a cosplay event? So 3 the best things and 3 the worst in your own opinion.
When they're making a cosplay or just going to one?
When they're getting ready to go to one.
If you're getting ready to go to one, be able to figure out how to go to the bathroom, how to get food and water easily, and how to carry your stuff, or figure out how to have someone carry it for you. Those are always my...
We'll be right back, guys. And we're back. So, food and water.
Yeah.
Being able to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And possibly even getting somebody to carry your stuff. Those are what you feel are the 3 best things to do when going to an event. What about the 3 worst things you feel? And we'll be back again in a sec, guys. So, what do you feel are the 3 worst things to do when getting ready to go to an event?
Getting ready to go to an event is just being underprepared. Because it's one of those, you just never know what's really going to happen. And so,
I would recommend one of the worst things I would say is not having a bottle of water with you.
Yeah.
Depending on the type of cosplay that you're doing, if it's like a full armored suit, like either Iron Man or the Stormtroopers or the occasional Wookiee, you know, make sure that you stay hydrated, because while you might think when you're at home these costumes are not very warm, you're not really getting the full con experience. You know, there's like 100 to 1,000 other people around you, and it's normally in a very cramped space. So, in that regard, stay hydrated if you're in a costume like that.
And I agree to that one too, because depending on the cosplay that you're wearing, you never know if you're going to be able to, when you're going to be able to stop, if you're going to be able to stop, and where. Because you could be quite a good distance from the nearest water fountain, and if your costume is restrictive, it makes it hard to even like bend down to get water. So a water bottle or some water container is always a good must. To go along with that too, it's always good to possibly bring your own food, because con food can be kind of expensive sometimes. And then again, you never know when you're going to be able to eat, so it's always good to just kind of have it on you if you ever need it, or just bring along like snacks or stuff, something to eat in between meals while you're at con. And then the only other thing I can think is to just have fun. And don't snub people when they ask you things or for your picture, unless you're on your way and you have to get somewhere to like a panel or to a photo op. You be polite, because people are there with family, they're there to also have a good time, and so a good con can be ruined by one rude person.
Definitely. It's always a point of being polite to others, guys, you know. And I'm just going to add, one of the better things to do, one of the worst things you can probably not do when attending a con event is not tell anyone where you're going. You know, this more so for younger cosplayers, but just make sure you tell somebody where you're going, how long you're going to be there, if you're not traveling with friends. You know, be safe, guys. Okay, so my next question for you is an interesting one. We're just coming off of the younger cosplayers comment there. When I first started in cosplay, I had this general idea that it would be targeted towards specific age groups.
Mm-hmm.
And the same, in a sense, goes with Comic-Con. So I started researching Comic-Con as much as I possibly could, seeing if there were any family cosplayers out there, and generally whatever I found family and cosplay related, it seemed like mum, dad, children, room in house, picture taken of them in costume, and then off to costume party they go. And I thought, that's not really what I'm looking for. So when I looked further in depth at Comic-Con events, I seen like group cosplays, but it seemed to be very specific in terms of an age group. It seemed like early to mid teenagers to maybe mid 30s.
Yeah.
And I thought, that must be the demographic, you know. So I said to myself, well, I fit within that demographic. If I had to go up to any of these people and say, comic books, superhero comic books, they would most likely say, comic books, back to me. So I can speak the language. When you first started in cosplay, did you have a similar notion, like there was going to be a specific age group? Or did you go in thinking, right, it's cosplay's for everyone, so I'm going to see people of all ages, which coincidentally, when I went to Comic-Con for the first time, that blew my mind when I seen so many different age groups, like babies that could only have been maybe a few days old to people who are, politely saying this, 1 foot in the grave.
Yeah.
What were your experiences like? What were your thoughts on age groups when you first started?
Growing up doing all the historical reenactments, doing all that, it's pretty much the same as that. you have all different age groups. I've known some people that were literally raised from birth to where they are now, just living the history life, and so I just assumed that was the same with Comic-Con. Yeah, generally it is a younger man's game, but you still do get the older people that have loved comic books since they first came out, going to these, and they still dress up. Like, one of my favorite pictures from one con, it was this older couple cosplaying as Papa and Olive Oil. Mm-hmm. And they were probably in their 70s, 60s, 70s, or easily. And it was just cute and fun.
There's a really good one that I remember from the States, of a woman who decided she was going to go to Comic-Con for her birthday. It must have been like her 90th birthday, and I've told this story so many times, the viewers must be expecting it and can probably tell it back to me. But she got to go to Comic-Con for her birthday wish, and she didn't want to just go, she wanted to go and cosplay, and she wanted to do her favourite comic book character that she basically has been around for the entirety of this character. And she got to go to this event as Wonder Woman. And she didn't say, right, well, I'm going to wear a black wig or anything like that. She's like, no, I'm X years old, I'm going to, like, have my long grey hair. I'm going to be in the outfit, and I'm going to have my walking frame, and I'm going to walk about the con. Mm-hmm. And she went and she did that, and it was fantastic, I was like, that is just fantastic. It's great to see somebody who is basically not giving an F and is happy to go about the con and do what she does. And I thought, what a great thing for not only like differences in age groups at Comic-Cons, but also for the character of Wonder Woman and the people at DC in particular, because here's a woman who literally has been around for the entire time Wonder Woman has been in publication, and she said, well, she's my favourite character, I'm going to do her, I'm going to portray her. And I thought, that is fantastic, There's little things like that I love. So, is there any particular cosplays that you do that are geared towards a specific age group?
Not that I can think of. Like, I knew the Shredder one, a lot of the older people, kind of more my age to mid-30s, would really appreciate because they grew up with those Ninja Turtle movies. And then Zorro I did in memory of my dad, because he introduced me into the Zorro movie when we went to a family trip down in Texas. And so we shared that love of Zorro. Like, we would stay up late, watch the old Disney Zorro show, watch the old movies. My favorite, of course, was the Antonio Banderas version, because that's the one I was first introduced to. So that's the one I cosplay. But that one possibly could be for the older generation, because Zorro's been around for so long.
I'm sorry, when you say Antonio Banderas, I just automatically think of Puss in Boots.
Shrek. Yeah. No, it's fun because he kind of took a little bit of that Zorro aspect and kind of introduced it with Puss in Boots, which I love that part.
Oh, it's so great. It's awesome. Okay. So, a lot of people tend to make a little bit of a business out of doing Disney cosplays, specifically like your Disney princesses or your Disney princes, and they've had the opportunity to go along to children's like birthday parties as these characters. Is that something that you would possibly want to do at some point, or is that something you kind of said, right, well, that's not really me, it's more them kind of thing, I'm just going to let them run with it?
I've done a little bit of that, not much. It's pretty fun to do every once in a while, but like as a full-time gig, probably probably not. I do a lot of like charity cosplays, like going to like hospitals and stuff, going to like special events. Just like a couple weeks ago, I went to a track meet for special needs kids, and that was a lot of fun. And it's really, to me, being paid for it, it's nice, but it's really all about bringing the faces light up, seeing the faces, bringing the characters to life. Because that's I did an internship for Disney World, and that's kind of what I did. Is I was, to use the lingo, I was friends with Goofy and Tigger, and when the kids would just come up. Sorry, this gets. When the kids would come up and just wrap their arms around Goofy and just give him the biggest hug and never want to let go, it was always just the most meaningful thing more than anything. I didn't care about being paid or anything. It was just more about having fun with people than anything.
I think it's really interesting when, like, I've had a lot of interactions with children when I've been in cosplay, and I've had like a history working with children, so I know what appeals to them and what doesn't appeal to them, and I always think it's really, really fun watching their faces light up when, like, you come across as this character, or it can be Star-Lord, it can be Harley, it can be anything, you know, it can be Peter Pan. And you just come up to them and you start speaking to them, and normally you just see this kind of like stunned look to begin with, like, how are you here, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then they start to break down, and it's so great to spend that little bit of time with them. And it's I know it's something that a lot of children will eventually forget, but you can tell that they'll be telling their friends, like, you're never going to guess what happened today. Like, I met Superman, or I met Batman, or I met Star-Lord, or the Hulk, and they were so nice. You know?
One of my favorites was the first time I went to a Comic-Con. I was dressed as the Heath Ledger Joker, and I was just wandering around because it was the first time I'd ever been to a con. I had no idea what was happening, so I was just kind of wandering around. And from behind me, I hear this, "It's the Joker!" And so I just look around, and it was probably this 3-year-old little girl peering around from behind her mom's skirt, just with the biggest smile on her face. So I'm like, I'm going to have fun with this. So I went to the side, and then we just did this whole back and forth behind her mom. Just this little peekaboo, peekaboo. And we did that for about a minute, and then she just kind of wanders around from outside of her mom and just wraps her arms around my legs and just gives me the biggest hug. And so I picked her up and I give her a big hug, and the mom gets a picture with me and her. I really wish I would have pulled my phone out and gotten a picture with her, because this little girl was just so flippin' cute. And it was just so funny because it was just this dark character of the Heath Ledger Joker having a special moment with a 3-year-old little girl.
I'll tell you about, after we're done recording, I'll tell you about the interaction I had with a little boy when I did Harley, which I know you will love. On the flip side to that, though, we have excitable children sometimes, and obviously children that we've kind of discussed that take it to heart, you know, like they've seen their favourite character. I think it's equally interesting when you get an adult that is much more excited than the child. Because I've had that happen to me, like, in a similar instance to what I'll tell you about later. I met this adult male who was so excited to see a living, breathing, almost close to the classic look of Harley as you can possibly get being a male, without wearing a jumpsuit, basically. he was so excited to see me, and he's like, "Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!" And I'm kind of looking slightly behind him, and then I see this child just kind of like walking towards this poor guy. Like it's like, I'm tired. I want to go. Can we go, Dad?
Yeah.
Look, and I'm like, I try to interact with the child more than I do with him.
Yeah.
To get them excited, whereas he's just, oh my god, and oh my god, and like, you look so much like the character, and I'm like, yeah, but you're a kid here, dude.
Yeah.
Have you had that interaction yourself where an adult has been more excited to see you in cosplay than the child was?
Definitely, especially with the Star-Lord character, and with a lot of people telling me how much I look like Chris Pratt. It's always fun to see people's reaction when I walk by, and they'll kind of see me, and then they'll go,
The double take.
yeah. It was funny at this last convention. I was at the booth with Shalane, and I was Star-Lord and she was Gamora. And this guy walks up to me at the booth, and he's like, "Oh, it's so good. I didn't know they actually got you here. It's so good to see you." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "So you had free time? You were able to make it down?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm between projects right now." Totally thought I was Chris Pratt the entire time. And of course, I didn't say anything about it. I'm just having fun with it. And after the guy leaves, Shalane like hits me. And she's like, "I can't believe you let him think it was actually Chris Pratt." I'm like, "Not my fault."
See, I would have said to Shalane at that point that she gets mistaken for Jada a lot, Jada Pinkett Smith. So, and to be fair, having spoken to her out of costume, I can see where people would make the distinction. But I think she's done the same. Like her first interaction with Robin Lloyd Taylor, he actually thought it was Jada, and she didn't like clue him in, "I'm not Jada," until he like finished the interaction with her, I think.
Yeah.
I can't say for certain, I only know what I've been told, so I'm gonna throw my hands up there. So I think that is fun, like when you're very close looking to a celebrity where people mistake you for it, and you can have that little bit of fun. Because generally the type of people that we would be portraying would be like that in person anyway. They might say, "Well, I am between projects." So, yeah, I wouldn't give you into bother for that. I'd be like, "Yeah, can I do it too?" Okay, dokes. So, my next question is not designed to insult, but we're still sticking on the age differences here. Over here in the UK, we have one particular television show that is exported to the rest of the world, and that is Doctor Who.
Of course.
And in Doctor Who, certain people can go for it as long as they want. So they can like play a specific character right until they're past the age of 40, 50, whatever. And a lot of cosplayers, well, it doesn't really matter what age you are, but a lot of cosplayers I know have said, "Well, I've reached age. I am now going to use my age to my advantage and play this character from Doctor Who or whatever fan base they're working from." Is there any particular cosplays that you are specifically holding off until you're a little bit older, or are you just kind of saying, "Right, well, I want to do this cosplay, I'm going to go for it"?
I'm the latter, that I don't care about the age. Yeah, it does help to look and be somewhat of a similar age to the character, but I just don't care.
Awesome.
I think it's just more fun to dress up as something that you love than holding it off until the future, because it's almost kind of pointless.
I think it's sorry, go ahead.
It's I think it's more fun to have to play off of the thought that you already have than try and save it for later, unless you have like a money restraint. That's the only thing I can think of.
What I think is really good about it is if you're a younger person who wants to portray an older character, like say you're in your, I don't know, mid-20s and you want to portray a character who's in their 60s, 70s, maybe even 80s, it's a good challenge for you to do that, because then you're learning a little bit more on how to age your face, which isn't always the easiest thing to do. I mean, yeah, we've got computer generated programs that will show us what we look like in so many years time, like 5 years time, 10 years time, 15, 20, 25, take your pick. So it's interesting to see, like, yes, we could work off of something like that, but it's better to kind of age your face yourself, and then you get the experience of doing that with makeup. And that's a skill that you'll pick up. And, that skill could then go on to help you if you do a full-blown, like, Freddy Krueger type face with makeup, or a Wolfman face with makeup, or whatever, So it's always really fun. Moving on. Let's talk about props.
Props, yes.
Now, props can be the best thing in the entire world. I think you can agree with me on that one.
Yeah.
And they can also be the reason why most cosplayers should be in a nut house.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So, having said that, props for me fall into two categories. One, it goes to a Comic-Con. And two, it goes to a photo shoot not at a Comic-Con.
Yeah.
So like a specific photo shoot, photo studio. So, and then they move into three subcategories, which are, this prop is massively large, it will break my back, but it goes with my costume.
Yeah.
So therefore I must have it. The next size is medium, which is, this prop is medium size. It's not going to break my back as soon as I take it out of my house, but it will annoy me after 7 hours. And lastly, it is the lovely smaller props. So it's like, hey, this prop is nice and small, it either fits in my pocket, fits in my bag, and I'm good to go. Now, depending on what type of cosplay you're doing, because that's the same thing every cosplayer says, it depends on the cosplay. Depending on the cosplay, what are you most liable to take with you to a Comic-Con event and feel comfortable with out of the three sizes that I've mentioned so far?
All of my cosplays, they have the medium to smaller props, which I'm really kind of glad about. The biggest prop I carry with me is probably when I do my historical reenacting would be the guns that I carry, which you can kind of see in the background here. They're quite big.
Yep.
But other than that, I carry props that are, of course, appropriate to the character, like with Star-Lord. I have the orb, I've got the blasters, I've got the helmet. For fun, I would carry around like one of those squeaky Halloween rats and pretend to sing in it like he does in the first movie. And people love that when I would be walking down, listening to music, and just rocking out with this rat in my hand. But it all goes along with the cosplay. I love the intricate, there we go, detail that they have in their cosplay. But as well with that, I want to see what they can build with their props, because that's a whole nother category, is prop building.
Yes.
They're fabric manipulation, and then there's material manipulation, like with foam or plastic or metal or leather. And it's always fun to see what creative ways people can think of to use these different materials to build what they want.
Okay. Now let's do a for instance here for the sake of the photo shoot. Let's say that you do have a rather large prop, the back-breaking kind, as I like to call them. Would you relegate that particular prop, or even, for instance, let's say one of your guns, would you relegate them to photo shoots only? Like you wouldn't necessarily take it to a con because, well, obviously, given certain restrictions that come with cons nowadays, would you relegate that particular one and say, right, those would just be specifically for photo shoots?
I think it depends on how long you plan on to be at the con with this particular prop. Like, if you're going to be there all day long, you're going to be hating yourself. But I know some people that they'll wait until a certain time, or if they're like in the cosplay contest, they won't wear it until they're getting ready for the cosplay contest proper. So I think if you can limit yourself, but also still have a fun time with it, you should be all right. Because you want to show them off. Photo shoots can only show off the props so much. Like, it can be there, but to actually have it at a con and let people see it, examine it, get the finer details, that way they could be inspired by what you have built as well, is the major thing.
Speaking about examining and seeing the finer details, let's talk about the actual creation process of props. Now, there are multiple ways that you can do props. You can buy them in ready-made and ready to go, which should not be frowned upon, I'm just going to say right now.
Cosplay.
There is buying them in and customizing them to the standard that you want. And there is the one that probably is the most creative, but also the one that will probably be the reason why most cosplayers should be locked up and put in straitjackets. The making them from scratch.
Total fabrication.
So, out of those three, what one are you most liable to work with? Obviously, all three are various ones that are good to go with, but which one are you? Are you making from scratch, buying in and customizing, or buying in ready-made?
Most often, the props that I have, I buy. Very few of them I buy and I alter to make better. I have yet to completely, totally fabricate from scratch a prop.
I'll give you some helpful advice on that one. Don't be in a classroom setting when making a prop, because especially if it's an inanimate object prop, because you will end up talking to it. You will end up going through many stages of bargaining with it. And if you're really getting frustrated, like most people I know do, and myself is included in this, you might end up swearing at it and threatening its life, even though it doesn't have one. So I would say that that's a definite home setting when making props, because guaranteed you will go off the nut. Like, why the F are you not working, you effing prop? Okay, so props, fun to have. Also annoying. So my next question for you, and it's one of my last few questions, is what has cosplay opened up away for you, away from actually being in a costume. So what kind of opportunities have you gotten out of cosplay?
Out of cosplay, I've been offered like a few like little acting gigs just because of the affinity of looking like Chris Pratt and stuff. But it's
And do you believe one of the things that has come opened up for you is getting the opportunity to work with Cause of Commotion Cosplays, Dean and Shalena?
Yeah, it's the networking.
Mm-hmm.
It's finding these people, interacting with them, doing a little business with them, and just opening things up. Like a lot of doors open. Like you could be a makeup artist, you could be a stand-in. Like I know one girl that she's on the Guardians of the Galaxy cosplay Facebook page. She was the stand-in for Zoe Saldana as Gamora for Guardians of the Galaxy too.
Wow.
And so cosplay, it can really open doors, especially if you get really good at it, because I know a lot of like studios will possibly offer like jobs for like prop building or costuming and or stand-in or even actual jobs in or roles in movies because you're just so into that character or making characters or developing characters.
Okay. My next question for you is, what are your next 3 cosplays that we're going to see you do? So your next upcoming event, one cosplay that you're working on that we might see by the end of the year, if not the beginning of next year, and one cosplay that is you're thinking about doing that will be featured next year. So you haven't started making about it, you're just kind of like, I may do that one. So let's talk about who you're going to be for your next event first. So who will you be?
My most known character, of course, is Star-Lord, and so most often I am him. I might be in Georgia for a paid gig as Star-Lord here, probably at the end of the month. My next big event would probably, I'm doing a lightsaber flash mob for The Last Jedi in December. I love doing lightsaber choreography. It's just one of those small little things that, yeah, I get to wield a lightsaber and make up this awesome looking routine with a good friend of mine. And it's just a good little passion for stage combat and also really good exercise too. My next really big cosplay that I've really wanted to do is I want to do, like I've been saying, the Connor from Assassin's Creed 3 because it's the American Revolution, it's my time period, and it was just a really fun game that I enjoyed. Also, I'm probably going to try and team up with a good friend of mine who does the Green Arrow. He wants to do 18th century version of the Green Arrow, so I'm like, hey, that would be a really cool photo shoot. So
Awesome. So my last question for you is, what advice would you give to somebody who would like to start cosplaying but doesn't really know where to start?
If you don't know where to start, you of course need to settle on a character that you have the most passion for, and take your time and know what level you want to build that character up to. Like, do you want it to be as screen accurate or paper accurate as possible, depending on if you're doing comic book or video game, movie, whatever. And then You got to establish your supplies, know what materials you're going to use, figure out your props, and figure out if you want to portray the character as in first person or in third person, that you can talk about the character, not as the character. And then just take your time building it so you can make sure that you get all the details that you're wanting and get it up to the level that you want. I think that would be the best, is just take your time. Don't rush into it, because if you rush into it, you're going to make a mistake and you're going to regret it later on. And every time you wear that outfit, you're going to regret that one little mistake that you made, unless you're able to try and go back and fix it.
So with that being said, I'd like to now take the time to thank Skylar for coming along and doing the interview with us. If you have any further questions for either myself or Skylar, please guys put them down in the, I think there's a comment section, like, down there. Do you see it? So put it down in the comment section, and either myself or Skylar will do our very best to get back in touch with you. Also, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, guys, because we love our thumbs. Show that thumb some love. Equally, guys, if for some strange reason you can't get enough of me, there are many more Inside Cosplay videos for you to go and watch. There is also a brand new series that is up on the Jai452 channel, which I'm not going to say too much about right now, but it is very super. So go along and do check that out. Also, there are multiple gaming videos that you can go and watch that I have done, which are Telltale games that are both Game of Thrones and Batman related, hopefully. And some other gaming videos like, I don't know, maybe a few games that Troy Baker and I think Laura something, like Laura Bailey have possibly done. So maybe keep an eye out for them. But if for some strange reason you cannot seem to get enough of me, I feature very heavily on this lovely little website, iGameOnline.net. We are a free website, guys, so do go sign up to us. It will not cost you a thing. And as you can see, we're both on Facebook and YouTube. So go check out what shows we have there for you. We do have the wonderful MERP, where you can follow the adventures of Zabby, Estelle, Theo, and Elantras, and see what kind of adventures they're having in the land of Middle-earth. We also have our Dragonland session, which is done live every Friday night at the moment by the wonderful Faye, and you can see what amazing adventures we're having in the world of Dragonlands. But however, if none of tabletop gaming is your thing, then you can equally check out the cosplayers that feature very prominently on iGame at this particular part of the website, the NAUK part of the website, where you can catch up with Kobe Kicks, Little Rascal, and Alphabetic Cosplay, and see what Comic-Con events they're going to and what cosplays they're currently making. And lastly, however, if none of that is your thing and you want something that you can sit back and read, you can check out our comic book section, which features the amazing Toon Busters comic book from an amazing writer that I know called John Stork. So do go and check that out. But in the meantime, if you have any particular questions that you would like to ask Skylar, but maybe feel a little bit weird about putting it in the comments section of a YouTube video, Skylar is going to give us some amazing links that we can get a hold of him if we have any further questions. So Skylar, where can we get a hold of you if we have any further questions?
Alright, I have a couple different pages. Of course, I have my Instagram page. It's pretty simple. It's Skylord Cosplay, all one word. That name was created because all my friends, because I'm most famous for being Star-Lord. They started calling me Skylord because my name's Skylar, and so I just kind of went with it. And then equally, I have a Facebook page that also it features more my 18th century tailoring and a little bit of cosplay, and that is the King's Own Tailor and Skylord Cosplay. It's all in the title. My Instagram is more kind of geared towards my cosplays, and then Facebook is more my 18th century and 19th century tailoring and reenacting and such.
Awesome. So please don't worry if you missed any of those particular social media outlets, guys. They will be in the description of this video. So do go into that description and check out what Skylar is doing on all of his social media outlets. Tell him I sent you. Do say hello to him. He doesn't bite. Very nice guy. But in the meantime, that is all the time we have for you on Inside Cosplay. I've been Jai452. Skylord Cosplays has been Skylord Cosplays, and this has been Inside Cosplay. And we will be back with another interview really soon. Bye, guys.
Yeah.